to our career ministry lunch and learn. We have John Casey, who is managing director of his own executive search firm and is a fabulous volunteer and a great help to many of our participants and job seekers. So I will just hand it over to you as he speaks to getting hired for FIT.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm talking about something that I feel very passionately about and I think is important for anybody who's looking for a job in either coming or in the future, either now or in the future. So I titled it Get Hired for Fit. So let's jump right in. I'm relatively new to the search business, so the last 20 years I've spent studying search and so forth. And one of the things that stuck out to me that just said, we're doing something wrong in my industry. And that is Gallup has been polling over the last 25 years the amount of workers that are happy and enthusiastic about their jobs and those that aren't. And this number that I'm showing you of 75% are not happy in their jobs in the United States is a phenomenal number to me. I mean, that just means that things aren't happening the way they should be. And when I first found out about this in 2010, I went, this doesn't make any sense in the world. And it's worse worldwide. Outside of the United States, 85% of the workers are not happy. They are not enthusiastic. They're not committed to their jobs, the mission of their companies, and they're just unhappy workers. And I've seen that in our searches. So we go out and knock on people's doors who have jobs and are not happy, and we place them in new jobs. And so I tried to think about over the last 10 years, what's going on? And I've come to believe that we are all part of the problem. In other words, workers are more interested in money and titles, potential for promotions, and job security, and more recently, remote hybrid work opportunities. And that's what they want. And that doesn't sound anything like, happiness in a job. That's not where they're at. So at the same time, employers are focused almost solely on skills and experience. When they look at personality fit, they only test candidates, never matching traits desired by the manager. And frankly, they're not ever testing the manager, which we'll talk about in a minute, which is kind of crazy. So in certain cases that happens, but it may be in 4 or 5% of the searches that I've seen out there in the marketplace. At the same time, in my industry, the search business, lower level firms, they just want to get money. So they're focused on spray and pray searches. They just send out your resume to as many people as they can and hope it sticks with somebody. And again, remember those somebodies that they're sending it out to, they're looking for not your fit, they're looking for the skills and experience and whether it fits on skills and experience. And even high-end retained firms like Egon Zehnder and Spencer Stewart and Heidrick Struggles and so forth, they don't test fit of the hiring managers, but focus on skills and experience. And when they do tests of, they call it personality testing, they do it only of the candidate, not the manager. Okay, so we're all playing a part of the problem. None of us are focused on management fit, which we're going to define in a minute. Even a recent Harvard Business School article focused on business skills, data analysis, understanding economics, business management, leadership skills, financial accounting skills. These are all things that Harvard Business School thinks you need to be successful. So they're talking again about skills and experience and not how you do things. And they're not getting into the fit issues that we're going to be talking about today. So what steps can we take in this environment? First of all, know thyself. Secondly, take self-assessment. Back up there a second. Take self-assessment tests. Review your past job history to see what management styles you enjoyed most and those that drained your energy. And then lastly, and most, we'll talk the most about this, learn the management style of potential bosses that you're going to work for and make sure there is a fit between your management style and the new boss before you accept an offer. Okay, so let's talk about know thyself. So this is really funny. I mean, and it's true. I mean, we are remarkably poor judges of ourselves. So the first step you have to do is try and get to know yourself. And remember, know yourself. It's a sum of all of philosophical commandments per Socrates. So Socrates and Aristotle and Plato, all of them said, hey, you need to get to know yourself first to do right in your life. And knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, not skills and experiences. So who are you really? Can you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? Self-knowledge is the sum total of who you really are as a person, not an employee, not a writer, a creator, son, daughter, brother, sister, or wife. The true self as it really is. In other words, we are talking here about what God wants you to be and the sum of the what we call it, of the gifts that He's given you and makes you a unique individual. So, two, who I am today is very different from who I was a decade ago, right? So we are changing over time. So self-knowledge is life-changing. Too fast, back up a little. It's a foundation for a better life. So, as I say here, when you get to know yourself, you become self-confident in where you want to go and what you want to do. And most importantly, with whom you want to do what you want to do. Okay? As a unique creature of God, the hardest search in the world is, why am I here on earth? Okay? And I really believe that what I'm talking about today is part of my walk that God put me on here. And it took 70 years to figure this out. But anyway, so now we can turn on to the next one, Tracy. I think self-assessments are really, really good. I have my favorite, but there's a lot of them out there. And take as many as you can. I have taken over the years many, many self-assessments. There's a Myers-Briggs online that you can take for free. And that is www.mbtionline.com. So that's a great place to start. And it talks about your personality and how you fit. And then you can, obviously, you'll have things to discuss with the interview process going forward. Dr. Sherry Buffington created her own core map 25 years ago, and she has books that she's written, and I really strongly recommend you get to know Sherry Buffington. She'll give you her own assessment if you get to know her at no cost. She is like me. She's passionate about people getting fit. And we use her assessment tool with both our clients and with our candidates to prove that final fit before we put out an offer letter. She's really, really good at it. It's a unique type of assessment. I think you'll really enjoy, Sherry. And the whole purpose is, again, uniqueness in life as a creature of God.
And we have
Certainly.
some additional tools, assessment tools on the career ministry website as well under resources. So there's a section there.
Great.
So feel free to reach out to me if you have questions about those.
That's great. Take them all. All right. Now this is an exercise I recommend people do, and I'm going to. It's a you have 5 bosses. Now some of you are younger and have fewer, and some of you are older and have more. But pick the last 5 bosses. So I listed here Bill, Mary, Jim, Chuck, and Janice as the last 5 bosses this person had, and put down the name of the company, and then say, okay, what are 5 traits that I liked that Bill had in his management style and that he valued in his management style with his team? Okay, and what are the traits that he had that I didn't like? Try and think of 5 traits that you liked with Bill, 5 traits that you disliked with Bill, and then please see if one of those is a trait you disliked. And you'll see in the information we're going to send you afterwards, one of the top traits that people dislike, all people dislike, almost all, is micromanagement. So I put down there self-directed teams because if they're a self-directed team, obviously you can't micromanage a self-directed team. Okay, so the idea was down there, I liked the fact that he was a mentoring boss. I liked the fact that he listened, he was creative, and he gave me stretch goals. I didn't like the micromanagement, I didn't like the bureaucracy, and I thought he was over demanding. So what I'm doing is laying out this page, and once I've got the traits, the 5 traits liked and 5 traits disliked for 5 jobs, then I just say, okay, there's 50 entries. What are the top 5 or 6 traits I want to communicate to the marketplace? And I want to study and make sure when I get my next job, I'm going to have those traits in my management style. That's going to be the fit that I'm looking for. Those top 5 traits. So self-directed teams, accountability, creativity, listening, and stretch goals. Those are things that I practice myself, and I want to be on a team and working with a boss that has those 5 characteristics.
And I did send that out in a Word document before the call, so you can take that and put your own information in there. It's just a table, right. So please use that and be able to modify it for yourself.
And I offer everybody who's listening today or in the future, if you have any questions about this or want to ask some more questions about it, please call me. You'll get my contact information so you can reach out to me. I also put at the end of this presentation a whole list of characteristics of good bosses and bad bosses to give you some ideas and get you started. Okay?
Yes.
The last step is the most difficult one. Let's say I've got my management traits and I know those are the 5 things that I want, and I really want to avoid micromanagement and bosses who are going to micromanage me. Because if I can find a boss with those 5 traits, I'm going to be successful. If I find a boss who has the traits I dislike, I'm not going to last. I will be fired for fit. So the whole process here today is, hey, I'm taking these 4 steps to make sure that I get hired with the right fit, which means the right fit with the boss. Okay? So here's some ways to learn about your new potential boss. But I will tell you, even as we go through these steps, it's really, really hard to figure it out, even for us. Unless you talk him into taking Sherry's assessment and you take it, and he's willing to share his assessment with you, that's 100%. But it's very difficult to get that done. Okay, and most search firms will not do that. Well, I we're the only one that I know that insists that the boss and the person being hired takes the test, the same test. So what you can do though, you can talk to former employees about the boss, about that department. What was the management style like of the hiring authority? That's the boss we're talking about. So you go out and you can go out on LinkedIn and type in the name of the company and name of the company dash LinkedIn, and I think we say that down below, and you'll see the names of employees that you know or a friend of yours knows. Okay, and reach out to those folks and ask them what it was like. What did you like? What was difficult about working in that group with that person? Ask the search firms. We work with people, and some are really difficult, and some aren't. But we have to get to know what what their management style was like, because we don't want to have to replace you. So that we're working really hard on trying to do that. Service providers, that's another great place. I mean, in the finance world, where Gary and I are, and some other folks here, I mean, they have service providers like bankers and accountants and so forth that work with the hiring authority. Talk to them and find out what it's like to work with them. Because really, we spend, let's say, as a service provider, I work on average 8 years with an individual. So by 5 years in, I know an awful lot about the boss, and I can probably tell you if what he's looking for and what he likes and doesn't like. Okay, and then you can make a decision. Current team members. Find out who's on the team right now. Find out people who were let go from the team. You want to find out, and you should ask the question in the meeting of the boss directly. Hey, what kind of person succeeds in your organization? What kind of person do you love to have? And what kind of person just drives you crazy? Ask them. You should. And then you'll know. I mean, then there'll be some things, some tips that you'll get directly from the interview process. As I said, first and second level LinkedIn connections to the company. Their professional LinkedIn page will give you a lot of hints. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn with my clients' LinkedIn pages. They're all great, and especially if you're working with a CEO or a C-suite executive, very often they will not have a lot on their LinkedIn page. Sometimes they do, though. That's a good place to look. Look at corporate culture. And when you're talking to former employees and so forth, ask them questions about the corporate culture as well as the management style of your potential hiring authority. Okay? And as I said, ask questions in the interview process. The last piece, and we know as recruiters, this is a real thing. Within 3 minutes of sitting down with your boss, potential boss, right? And hiring, you're going to know whether you want to, you're going to feel whether this is going to be a good opportunity for you working with him or her, and vice versa. It's a double click. And it happens in 270 seconds. So trust your gut feelings. If there's something, and I've had people walk into jobs with lots more money and a bigger title and everything else, and walk back and say, John, I'm sorry, Bill and I, we're not going to make a good team. So I'm going to pass on this opportunity. And I am really happy because it's not that Bill's wrong or you're right or Bill's right. You're different and you're just not going to work well together. So your gut feelings is the final story about that. And there's actually, we call it the click factor in our industry, whether you click or not. This is not easy. So if you're in that situation and you're working on somebody, call me because especially if it's in Dallas Fort Worth, we know a lot of people. There are some companies we won't work with, and call people, service providers. They'll say, "Oh yeah, we used to be their accountants, but we stopped." Well, really? And they will. That's a red flag, right, for everybody. All right.
I'm gonna just stop here and see if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Kind of ran through some things.
I have a question.
Sure.
What happens when someone is not forthright? You've gone for the interview and you think you click in, you ask questions, and they're not forthright when you ask them about certain traits, on how to succeed in that department, and they don't tell you the truth, or they give you false information. What do you do?
Walk out. I mean, finish the interview, thank everybody, and then if you're working with a recruiter, tell the recruiter you're no longer a candidate. And if you're not a recruiter, send a really nice thank you note and everything else and say you're just going a different direction. You don't ever call anybody a liar, but in effect, what you're saying is there's an honesty issue. And I would never go anywhere near that. I would never go anywhere near that. And so that's an easy question. Thank you for your question. We had a client that we love to death, and he said all the right things about the right traits, but subconsciously he was a micromanager. So he said, I want self-starting individuals to come out and make things happen. So we got him, put some candidates in front of him. They were all self-starters, and he ended up hiring 2 of them for one position. He was really happy with them. He was very excited about them. They were very excited about him. And 3 months later, he fired both of them because subconsciously, he wasn't lying and he wasn't being dishonest. He said, I really like self-starters. Oh, okay, great. Well, we'll get you some self-starters. And we did. But in reality, he was nervous about letting people go and be out there and making things happen without direct, close supervision. And so he ended up letting both of them go, even though they succeeded in making lots and lots of millions of dollars for the company in 3 months. One of them made $70 million in a contract negotiation that she accomplished within the first 2 months, 60 days. And it's just, it's not easy. That's why I say you've got to listen really hard, because sometimes even the person that is financial boss, he's not lying to you. He just doesn't understand what's deep down in his fears and concerns. So he wasn't aware of the fact that, and we got back to him and said, hey, listen, here were the traits you asked for. I mean, you know what you're complaining about. And we had a good discussion with him, but it was unfortunate for those two individuals. That can happen to you anyway. Okay.
Any other questions? So I'll ask one that maybe others are thinking but are afraid to ask. But what happens, if you're thinking, I'm just trying to get interviews, like I'm just trying to find something, and this is like the extra steps. Obviously, it's very important. But what's the danger of just taking something and not to paying attention to this?
Okay. Well, taking the interview, Tracy, is not a problem. Always go and get an interview. Even get an offer letter. I don't care about that. But understand, if you're going to be doing something you don't enjoy doing, okay, you're not going to last in that job. If you're out of cash and you're nearing bankruptcy and you've just got to go out there and get some money, cash flow coming in, I understand that. That happens to all of us. But the problem is you're just not going to last, because these guys, great people, they didn't fit through no fault of their own. And they were out in 3 months. That's about how long it takes for a boss that doesn't like the way you're accomplishing your job to fire you. So you're better off, I think, Tracy, looking for consulting assignments, because there's a lot of consulting work in Dallas-Fort Worth right now. And that way you don't mess up your resume. So you can go into a consulting assignment, not the best culture, obviously, in many cases, but you can make money and look for the right opportunity, rather than taking an opportunity that you really don't want. Because remember, 75% of the people out there really don't want the job they've got. So I got to answer Tracy by saying that's what most people do. They take a job for money or title or just to get employed. They haven't found out whether they really want that job or not. And that does last 3 to 4 months, maybe 4 months.
Thank you.
Anyway, Don.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, or we'll just move on?
All right. So let's talk about. I mean, this is kind of fun. We made a shorter version of this. I've actually got about 60 different traits in the long document we're going to send you, but I didn't want to walk through 60 traits. So, worst managers. Can you imagine? Don't communicate. They're narcissistic. They love themselves. It's all about them, not their team, not their employees. They micromanage, like we talked about before. They play favorites. Oh, you guys have seen this before. They have unclear or changing expectations. It's like CEOs are very, very bad at this. They'll walk in with the concept du jour, the concept of the day, and say, okay, we're going this way. Everybody turn left. and you're going like, wait a minute, I'm halfway through going straight. No, we've changed, okay? That drives people crazy. This is terrible. My uncle was a CEO of American Airlines one time, and I was having lunch with him, and he said, John, Fear is a great motivator. And I'm telling on them. And I just listened to him and I said, are you kidding? So I don't believe in fear, but there are a lot of executives and executives from that generation that believed in using fear as a motivation. I don't, and we do not work with people who use fear or intimidation to get things done. That just doesn't work. There's a company here in town. I'm not going to name names, but the CEO yells and loses his temper and is actually known to throw things across the table at people when he wants to get their attention. I mean, that's craziness. Anyway, can't make a decision, blame the team. Manage up means they're just worried about their reputation with their boss, and they're really not concerned about what you think of them as their boss. They're not managing down, they're managing up. A lot of, you've seen this, people, right? Where they're never wrong. Somebody else is. Their boss is, the company is, or you are. It's not their fault. Change resistors. People don't want to change. Fail to provide recognition. I'd say that's at least 50% of our clients. They really don't understand the importance of recognition. And it's not done. That's a good question. Ask him about, what kinds of recognition programs he uses, what kinds of recognition programs he thinks are the most effective. And if he looks at you with a blank stare, there you go. Okay. I mean, we can keep on going. Lacking vision, don't mean what they say. Oh, that's a good one. God help us with those people. Unrealistic expectations happens all the time. I'd say that's over 50%. In today's age too, and I'm sorry, my generation, we're focused on work. And if you're enjoying your work, that's great. But you have families. I mean, I worked and I regret the fact that I had 4 kids raised mostly by my wife, not by me, because I was traveling around the world in my career and wasn't home enough. People today have work-life balance really matters. Unfortunately, I'd say today, if you're working for somebody who's over 40 years old, work-life balance isn't real. I'm sorry. It just doesn't happen as often as it should. That's another 50%. I'd say each one of these 21, and I think where they're 21, 25, you've got at least 50% of the bosses out there have 3, 4, or 5 characteristics of the 25 that they're practicing. And that save the last one for the worst. The very worst bosses will publicly humiliate or shame an employee. Oh my goodness. Look, when I got mad at one of my employees, I took him off site and we had lunch and I explained what the issues were and the problems I was having with the performance. But it was one-on-one, off-site, with nobody who could hear anything anywhere. That's the only way to treat somebody. But you can see how you can turn some of these things into questions, everybody. And I think that's the value of it. You all know these, but it's just a reminder of some of the things. And then I think we have the next slide is a little bit better, right? So some of the top skills successful managers work on in their careers. And I think this is really important. you're always working on these issues. You're working to be a better leader. You're working on increasing your depth of your experience. On communication, that's a big one. I mean, it's not something you're going to learn today or learn in 2 months. You have to constantly work on communication. Time management, that is a never-ending battle for a successful manager. Delegation, really truly delegating and giving people, the responsibility and stepping away and not looking over the shoulders of the person you gave confidence and delegated authority to. Respect, oh my gosh, that's huge. And a lot of people, you see a company culture out on, their website and whatnot, and they talk about it. But the really successful manager lives the company culture. And every meeting, he's talking about company culture. So we have more stuff. Like I said, there's another 50 traits you can use to decide what they are. The most important thing is once you've decided what things you want, what things you don't want, communicate them in your search. Put them out on LinkedIn. Put them into build them into your resume. Okay, build them into your conversations. I even have people that put them on their business cards or whatever, because that's what you want. You want to find that fit, and if you don't communicate it, you won't get. Now there'll be some people that look at your desired management traits and say, "I don't want one of those." That's fine. You want somebody to pass you by, because you're not like them. That's great. You saved everybody a whole lot of pain and suffering. But somebody will see and they'll say, I'm looking for somebody who wants to take accountability for his actions. That's one of my keys. Wow. He's got that out there on LinkedIn, accountability. I'm interested. Oh, he's a self-starting, so he's a team player and he's a self-starter. I'm interested in that. You may not get 5 for 5, but you'll get 4 out of 5, and that will work. I had a boss, my first boss is a CEO, and I was a CFO, and he was a micromanager, honestly, and I worked for him for 10 years because he had everything else. And I got it, and he and I got to working on his micromanagement, and he and I defined what was going to be micromanaged, and it worked out. And we met every day for lunch for 10 years, and I loved him. He's my favorite boss, Rich DiGregorio, down in San Antonio, Texas. So you're not going to get everything, but at least when you put it out there, what you're looking for, people will reach back to you. Tracy, I think, is that it? We're done?
Yeah, and we have a few minutes for questions, so if anyone has questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Most people that we work with, one final comment, most people we work with say, I'm not going to be specific. I want to get as many opportunities as possible. So I'm going to be very general about what I'm looking for, very general about my skills and my experience. And I'm certainly not going to talk about my management style, because who knows? My management style may not fit with other people. Clearly, it doesn't. And in the studies done by Gallup, the managers are the key problem areas. So if you want to go that way and you just want to get, deal flow, I call it, right? People reaching out to you because they go like, oh, I don't know what this gal is all about, but she has this and she has that, she has something else. Let's bring her in for a talk. I don't recommend that at all. I think that's the worst way to burn your brand as an individual. Because believe me, it'll get out into the marketplace. So the more specific you are, the more you'll be trusted and respected in the marketplace. And that's it for today. Please feel free to call you. At the very end of the document Tracy's sending you is my contact information. If you have any questions as you're working through the other characteristics, please, feel free to reach out to me, okay?
Okay, thank you so very much. So I did want to highlight, we have an upcoming workshop. Well, first of all, John, you did a fabulous job. We're so happy to have you, and thank you so much for that knowledge and your willingness to be a resource for us all. So thank you, thank you. We also have another fabulous job search workshop that's coming up. It's on August 26th. It's a Saturday. It's all day from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we're going over this book, The Champion Way. It's going in depth to how, why, when, what to do in every step of your career advancement. So it's got worksheets. You get a copy of this book. There's a $25 fee, but we do offer scholarships. If that's a problem, just reach out to me and I can give you a code. And it's going to have checklists and really resource to be able to use ongoing. So I highly recommend it. Lunch is included. And we did one of these back in February. The presenters, Greg Meckler and Joe English, are fabulous. And it's really great. So I hope you can all mark your calendars and come to that. So that's all we've got. If there's no other questions, just know we're praying for you and just wishing you the best. Take time to really think about your management style. I know that's not always the easiest thing to do, but maybe take an assessment and figure out ways of being able to put that in, incorporate that into your brand and your marketing. John, is there any specific place on LinkedIn or on your resume that you would recommend that they put that?
Well, okay, so I'd work it into about us or about me section, and I would find the one or two key management traits, and I'd put it right up there at the top with your name and your title. In other words, if I am a hard charging CFO, right? So the fact that I work fast and quickly, hard charging is a good word, and people like that. Okay? Now they're going to expect you to deliver on that, but that'll pique people's interest. So think of adjectives that you could put up there in the top part of LinkedIn. And if you're using Terry Sullivan, ask him because he's got even better ideas than I do.
Very good. Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much. Let's just close with a quick prayer. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, merciful Father, thank you that you are the source of everything good in our lives. As I look for a new job, I pray that you would move powerfully in my life, providing opportunities and guidance for me. Put the right options in front of me. Let me fulfill your plans and purposes through my work. Your kindness and care for me have been present throughout my life, and I ask your kindness in this job search. Your love conquers all obstacles and provides life in all its fullness. May I rest in that love. through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, with that, we'll leave. Have a great week, and we're here if you need us. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.